Hi guys. How are you all beautiful people? Hope you all are doing fine. And yes, this is a new series. A man is reborn in the world of My Hero Academia and forced to bear the burdens of his predecessors. Thankfully he has a solid quirk and an enchanted gift to see him through. Watch as he nukes the world timeline down the shitter and dominates his Hero Academia. So let's start. Consciousness came to me slowly, like shit from a constipated man's ass. Why did I even make that comparison? The dull taste of asphalt lingered in my mouth. Asphalt. Asphalt. Phew. I spit out a fat glob attempting to clean my mouth of the dirt road. I looked around at the world devoid of color, a sticky goo soaking me from head to toe, with bits of a skin-like fabric clinging to my body. Almost instantly everything came back to me. Memories. History. Personality. As if it had been planted into me. No. No. All right, Haru. You gotta calm down. Ignore the existential dread and brewing identity crisis. Take a deep breath. Foo, fui. Foo, fui. Wait a minute. I am not a Haru. I am a caret at percent hash caret divided by underscore. No a caret at percent hash caret underscore. Why can't I? A sharp pain tore straight through my head, 1000-degree knife through butter. I screamed out in a shrill voice. Unbefitting a 20-year-old man I am. Or was. My hands. They are small. Is this reincarnation? Did I die? Shouldn't I be meeting a Rob and getting my wishes or something, instead of being stuck in this Pinanoi knockoff? No. Gotta stay straight edge here. Can't think of this shit. Fuck. I pushed against the ground in a vain attempt to get on my feet. My tiny goo-soaked hands slipped, the colorless asphalt once again becoming my rough lover. Why the fuck am I talking like this? Miss me with that gay shit? Yes. Finally. I muttered. My original personality was coming back to me. I wiped the goo off my hands, and at long last got up on my feet. The black and white nature of this street was giving me the creeps. I looked around again, only this time, I saw him. A man in a long coat sitting on a bench, lazily staring at me. I jumped in fright. Bejesus frick. How long have you been there, you bastard? And why am I talking like this? Who are you even? What am I doing here? What did you do to me? And why am I, is this moon speak? You done? One question at a time. Now. He spat out in contempt, as if somehow I was the one at fault here. All right. Who are you? I asked. You. I am you. Or a version of you. Or something. It's not important. He replied. So not a Rob, huh? That's new. And what is important? I asked, my baby voice betraying the annoyance in my tone. Aha. Finally. Now you're asking the real questions. He chirped. A small sigh of relief left his mouth as he looked at me with a bit more respect. I almost thought I'd failed in the process of making you. He added. And why exactly did you make me? I pressed. Now that's a long story. You want the long or the short of it? I'll take the long version. I have all the time in the world. I shrugged. Well, it all began when another me, or is it us now? Never mind. So and Rob offered one of the past recursive iterations of us a deal. Then the dude flipped out on it and stuck another copy with the bill. And so on and so forth. Until me. And now you. So. L used my power to glean a way out of this. For the both of us. He exposited. And this pedo-abuse vicious cycle of yours relates to me how? I quipped. See, the thing is that direct clones are bound to the deal and have to continue the cycle to get rid of the deal. But here's the catch. A far enough dissimilar clone can end the chain. And that's where you come in. You are the last link in this chain. The savior of all of us. You mean the sacrificial lamb? I snorted. In a way, yes. So what's in it for me? Besides me not wiping you from existence right now on the spot. Superpowers. Does that sweeten the deal up for you? And what's the catch? Nothing really. But you are in the world of My Hero Academia, so I'll need them to survive. Got it? And no thanks. I'll take vaporization for 200 now, if that's fine. Okay. Fine. I'll give you this. He said, holding out a calling card with a seed taped up to it. And this is a card that will enchant any item with one enchantment effect. It won't be anything awesome like insta-kill or probability manipulation, and you'll need to power it with your quirk. The other is a seed of rebirth. Fill it with your quirk and it'll auto-regen your ass out of tough situations. All this talk about my quirk, but you haven't told me anything about it. What exactly is my quirk? It's a broken dead shard fragment with psi in it. Shard like Stormlight or shard like Worm. Parahumans. That stuff. And don't worry. It's not conflict-driven or predestined or any some such. And psi is PSI from Siren. Now that that's done, I'll take my leave. He said, slapping his legs. Wait. What about my living conditions? I ain't exactly a Kryptonian space baby. Where am I going to live? With what identity? Now that you mention it, I did have it prepared kinda like that. He said. Like what? See, down the road, some ways from here, there's the small town of Hamamatsu. On the outskirts of that town, there's a farmhouse owned by a childless couple. Their pigs, well, let's just say, ate their only child. A boy, coincidentally named Haru. About your age too. He smirked. Coincidentally, huh? I retorted. Yup. Totally. He replied, whistling mischievously. Mind dropping me by their front door? I pleaded. Hey. Now where's the fun in that? Oh come on man. Get busting Haru. It's getting late. I hear there's coyotes out here. I'm sure they'd enjoy a fresh snack today. He said, and color returned to the world, the setting sun painting the sky red. I stared at the sun, in all its natural beauty, diving at the horizon. When I turned back, he was gone. Ha! Fine. I'd best get moving. I muttered. 3 hours later, thirsty and almost at the brink of exhaustion, I arrived at a farmhouse. Shikimori Farms and Poultry. With the pigs crossed out from their logo. Yup. Jackpot. Here we go. Then, I collapsed and darkness took me. Shikimori Aomitsu was in grief. Her only son, her baby boy, had just been eaten by the pigs she had raised herself. The day she found out, was the day the pigs breathed their last. She took them to the cleaners herself and chopped them bit by bit into tiny little pork chops. She wasn't a violent woman, but that day, she was demon incarnate. She didn't enjoy inflicting pain on others, but that day she relished in the pained squeals of the pigs as she slaughtered their babies in front of the mommy and daddy pigs. Their turn came soon after. Shikimori Farms stopped raising pigs that day. And Fukaku swore they never would again. Months passed by, but the pain never went away. Not truly. She wondered if the person who said time heals all wounds was one of those sheltered do-nothings, oblivious of the world around him. She tried and she tried, she joined clubs and hikes. She learned to play the guitar and did therapy. But that hole in her heart never went away. Then came the final blow. When they were preparing to have another baby, at a routine checkup, the doctor delivered it. The bad news. She was infertile. The stress from losing her child had done a number on her health. And the obsessive distraction with strenuous activities hadn't helped. There would be no more little Harris in her future. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. She retreated inwards, abandoning her friends, her duties, even her husband. There was no more joy in her life. There was nothing left for her. She wept and wept until she could weep no more. She whipped herself to sleep every day and whipped herself every morning. She figured if she couldn't stop the pain, she could at least control the hurt. And the blood reminded her of the pigs. Those ungrateful monsters. Her health deteriorated to the point of disability, and despite Fukaku's efforts, she wouldn't stop. That was until one fateful day. The day her Haru returned to her. Back from the dead. It was a cool summer night when Fukaku heard the dogs barking. It was nearly 11 p.m. and he was about to go to sleep. But their barks concerned him. They had gone on for a bit too long for it to be a fox or badger. He had to check it out. And boy was he glad he did. There at the gate of their farm, lay a baby boy, bruised and bleeding from his blistered feet. Shit! Fukaku cried. He picked up the unconscious boy and ran inside. The boy needed medical attention. Ao-chan! He screamed, awakening his wife. What? She asked weakly. It's a baby boy. He's hurt. Bring out the first aid box. He said, conviction in his voice, jolting Aomitsu into full alert. She brought over the first aid box, while her husband washed the boy clean. Once he had been bandaged, cleaned and clothed, they sat on the couch opposite to the unconscious boy, and breathed out a sigh of relief. Who is he? And what was he doing out here, all alone? At night even? She wondered. Don't know. Her husband replied, I don't think he's from around here though. But we'll see about it tomorrow. You go to sleep, I'll watch over him for now. He needed his temples. He has a high fever, Fu-san. And you're tired. I'll stay here. You need to sleep. She argued. But. No buts. You need to sleep. I'll take care of him. Aomitsu interrupted, pushing him up. All right. But if anything happens. Yes, yes. Now go. You need to rest. Fa'ayuthrin. He yawned. Good night, honey. Kissing her forehead, he retired for the day, leaving Aomitsu with the unknown boy. As she watched him sleep, changing his bandage every few minutes, something melted in her broken, cold heart. The hole in her soul felt a bit smaller. The facsimile of a smile bore gently upon her face. She felt like a mother again. She felt for the first time in months, that she could love and be loved again. That maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of it. Little did she know, that come next morning, her life would forever change for the better. I awoke, feeling warm and noticeably less gooey than I last remembered. A woman was leaning beside me, fast asleep. Not, go, way she was muttering something in her sleep that I couldn't quite make out, but seeing the sign outside the room's window meant I was in the right place. Now all that was left was to convince them to adopt me with my new super skill, ultra cuteness. I felt bad for using them and their child's memory like this. Or so I would say, if I was a wimp. No. Morality is bullshit and means nothing in this new world. It's just a tool for the strong to keep the weak in their place while they keep doing whatever they want, without rebuke. And to face a world of bullshit logic and dollar store morality, I would have to go beyond the limits of stupid societal concepts. Utilitarianism all the way, baby. I gently nudged the woman sleeping beside me. It was time for the first W of my new life. Let's go. Mew. She slurred awake. Then she saw me, staring back at her with the most innocent big baby eyes. And Hook. Oh, you're awake. You're awake. Honey. He's awake. She screamed for her husband. What? Hold on. I'll be right there. He responded from another room, as sounds of scrambling footsteps rang out on the tiled floor. Hey, buddy. He said, as he slid over to the couch opposite me. How are you feeling? Does it hurt anywhere? He asked, gently caressing my hair. I shook my head shyly and shrunk into the sofa. Don't be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you. He cooed. Yeah. That's exactly what someone who was out to hurt me would say. How was this guy even a parent? Don't worry, said the woman, it's going to be okay. It's all fine. She gave me a gentle hug, her bony sides grinding against my shoulders. Honestly, she looked ragged, emaciated and sickly herself. And there were scars on her sides, peeking through slightly. Fuck. Is that domestic abuse? What kind of home was I coming into? Did the other trick me? Damn it. Maybe I'll need to find a way out of here. I began scanning the area for any escape routes. Not that there was much I could do as a 2-year-old. Nevertheless, I wasn't going to give up without trying. Can you tell us what your name is? The man asked. I looked at him for a second, dazedly before answering, Haru. A look of shock spread across their faces. Yeah. That was about the right reaction. If my son died and then a baby his age came crawling over to had the same name as him, I'd be spooked too. This is fate. The woman cried. No. Wait. The husband replied. Do you know where your parents are, Haru? He added. I shook my head and answered, no. Can you tell us their names, then? He pressed. I shook my head once more. Do you know where you live? No. I answered. What were you doing out there, last night? Do you remember why you were outside naked? Did someone kidnap you? I shook my head a third time, this time with added whimpering and sniffling. I don't remember. I cried. Oh, you poor baby. Come here. The bony lady said, pulling him into her embrace. The man kneaded his temples. This was not good. His wife was growing attached to the boy. He could see it. He was almost certain she was going to ask him to keep him. And he was of half a mind to allow it. This past day he had seen her happier than the last 8 months combined. But what of his parents? Surely they would be looking for the boy. He couldn't rob another family for his own happiness. As if on cue, his wife turned to him. Let's take him to the police. Maybe they can help us find his parents, she said with a smile. His expression morphed into one of pleasant surprise and then of pride. Her pain was plain as day, on the tip of her tongue, in the light of her eyes and palms of her shaking hands. It pained her to give up her happiness. But even so she chose to be the bigger person. A glad smile crept up on the man's face. He was truly blessed to have such a great wife. He got up and called his friend in the police force. This was going to be a mess. About an hour later, as I was eating my lunch, a knock rang out from the door. And a man in police uniform walked in. Tanuma. Thanks for coming. You said something about a lost child. Tanuma asked. Yeah. That's him. Can I talk to you? In private. Tanuma gestured at the next room over. Sure. The man replied, following the policeman in. I need to know what they're talking about. But with this woman hounding me like an eagle. Not a chance. I acted interested in the officer and stealthily leaned forward, pushing the bowl of pasta off the table. Oh no! She cried. Sorry. I added with haste. No. It's okay. She replied with a kind smile. Then, can I have some more pasta? I asked the woman with puppy dog eyes. Yes. Of course you can. She said, pitching my cheeks as a blush spread across her face. She skipped enthusiastically to the kitchen to make me some more. Once she was put of view, I leapt off the chair and ran after the two. Pressing my ear to the door, I could hear a few words. What do you mean? The man asked. I mean there is no record of a boy that age named Haru, anywhere in this whole district. For all intents and purposes, that boy doesn't exist. Tell me Fukaku, where did you even find him? He just showed up at our house last night. He had a fever and blisters all over. And he was naked. This isn't normal, is it? No. It's not. What's worse is that when I checked the surveillance cameras across the area, there was no sign of any vehicle or residence. It's like he appeared out of nowhere. Trust me, the kid is shady as all hell. He's a 2-year-old, Tanuma. How shady can he be? Fukaku asked. You wouldn't believe the shit that goes on out there. Everything can be shady. And maybe not him. But whoever was behind what happened to him. Definitely shady as fuck. So what happens now? I mean to him. Well, seeing as he doesn't remember anything, and has no ID, there's nothing I can legally do. And if we hand him over to the state, there's no telling what they'll do to find out where he came from. Then, do you think, can we keep him? Raise him as our own? Look Fukaku, I know that thing with your son hit you hard but what Tanuma? My son is dead, and now I have a chance to help a kid. One with the same name as our son. This has to be fate or a miracle or something. Listen Fukaku, I think it's best that we... No. You listen. Please. Tanuma. My wife. She's never been happier in the 8 months since the incident. This is a blessing. Please. I can't watch her heart be broken again. This is a second chance for us. Please. Can't you do something about it? Fukaku begged, choking back sobs. Fuara. Tanuma sighed, fine. I'll do something. But promise me this. Not a word of this gets out or all of us are going to jail. Get it? Yes. Yes. I promise. Thank you. Thank you so much. Fukaku cried out in joy. Yeah. Just keep your snotty nose away from me. Tanuma replied, with a flustered tone. Yup, that's my cue. I got up and ran back to my chair only to find the woman looking at me as I walked back over. Where did you go? She asked, her hands on her hips. I was looking for the potty. I answered in baby speak. Did you find it? She asked. I shook my head. No. All right. I'll take you. Come. She said, picking me up by my armpits, just as the two men came out. Ayo-chan. Can we talk? Fukaku asked. Yes, just 1 minute. I'll take him to the potty. Then we can talk. She answered. Oh sure. I'll see Tanuma out then. He replied, leading the officer towards the door. Then he turned and gave her a thumbs up, as her face lit up like a firework. Once I was done pooping, I was back in the living room with the couple. They sat me down opposite them, as they sat down on the floor. Then they asked me the question of the hour. And I knew. Step 1 of my plan had succeeded. Haru-chan. Do you want us to be your mommy and daddy? There was only one logical choice at this point. My answer was yes. And thus began the second step to my plan. Training. From what I remember, the power of psi is the power to alter reality with your thoughts to produce certain effects. Effects like telekinesis or tactile force fields. Or in some cases, homing black holes. Of course, that depended mostly on what unique skill was awakened by the user. That didn't mean that it wasn't possible to use other powers. Everyone with psi could learn to use the basics like telepathy, telekinesis, or tactile force fields to some degree with enough practice. And that brings me to the next part of my power. Its 3 respective aspects: rise, burst and trance. Rise was the ability to boost my physical attributes like strength, senses or even regeneration to superhuman levels. Burst, on the other hand, was the real deal here. It was the ability to manipulate energy to create vast tracts of destruction. I'm talking fire and lightning, manifesting solid light objects with magical properties and even just basic telekinesis. And as if to balance the nature of this aspect, it is also the one that puts the most strain on the brain. Lastly, there was trance. The ability to manipulate minds. The perfect counter to the overwhelming power of burst users. It started with basic telepathy and mind reading, but with enough practice could lead to brainwashing and future sight powers as well. Of course, each user had their own unique abilities, like black holes, solid light dragons, technopathy, laser beams and even life force manipulation. Hell, there was even one telekinesis user that could bend the sun's rays to create a deadly burning laser that could darken the sky and incinerate everything on contact. Of course, there were more specific and advanced applications of psi like Nova and Almighty that gave the users godlike power. But that was for later. As a 2-year-old, right now all I could do was to wait and practice manipulating psi energy into shapes and strings. Maybe telekinesis. And that was what I was doing out here. I concentrated on my power and pulled at a stick on a tree trunk some ways from me. Come to Papa, I muttered, willing it to move with all my might. Finally, after 2 minutes of forcing it, the stick twitched forward. Yes. Yes. I cheered. Superpowers are so awesome. Then the headaches hit me. Ah! I cried out, kneeling by the tree stump. Ha ha. I panted like a downed dog, my brain felt like it was being souffled inside out. Man, this was going to be hard. How did those manga characters get it done so easily? Like shit. They trained for like 2 days and were throwing around telekinetic bombs by the weekend. I guess being the protagonist really is a cheat skill. Hard to believe someone could horny their way to power. As I lay on the tree stump, my new mom came running out. Haru-chan, you can't be going out here. What if you get hurt? Or some wild animal attacks you? Do you want Mama to be sad again? She scolded, picking me up like a sack of potatoes and dragging me back inside. No, Mama. I answered dejectedly. This damn woman was too overprotective. There was helicopter parenting and then there was jail warden parenting. Guess where she fell? It was understandable though. I wouldn't trust my 2-year-old to not eat dirt and snort earthworms if I was a parent. Even more so since she'd lost her first son to negligence. Now she was overcompensating with the safety of her new child, me. But on the more positive side of things, over the past month, her complexion had improved and she'd even gained some meat on her bony ass. The father wasn't abusive either, as I'd initially suspected. It was almost hard to believe, but they were truly decent and good people. They helped out at a local food bank every Sunday, donated to the animal shelter and even did an yearly beach cleaning event to maintain the pristine shores of Hamamatsu. Pillars of the community. And now, with Officer Tanuma's help, so was I. Shikimori Haru. Back from the dead. And so the years passed. Gently and quietly, as I made steady progress in my training. Soon I would enact the next step of my plan. Butting into the timeline of Hero ACA and turning this into a fic world. Or at least as much as I could without butchering the timeline. Can't be messing stuff up before I get to the Nova level powers. But after. Oh boy. All for one, better hope he dies at Deku's hands, cause I was going to ream his sorry immortal butt. Or so I thought. But messing with canon is a Herculean task when you are stuck in the goddamn boonies. Even more so when you have overprotective parents and a rising crime rate. Mom. Please? I whined. No means no, Haru-chan. She answered, setting the table. Come on, I'll be responsible. Totally. Uncle Tanuma won't even notice. I insisted. Shikimori Haru. Do you not understand the meaning of no? You're not going to Tokyo. Whether Tanuma agrees or not. Dad. You gotta help me convince her. I pleaded. No can do, kiddo. Mom's right. You're 11. I wouldn't trust you out and about the city proper, much less out in Tokyo. Especially with that recent attack by Toxic Chainsaw. Tokyo is not a safe place to be. Then how about Muzutafu? That's just the next city over. I hear Old Era Junior High is a great school. I can go there, right? No. Stop arguing already. You're not going anywhere. Hamamatsu Public High is a decent enough school, complete with junior and senior high school curricula. You don't need to be going anywhere. Han. Why? I complained. You're not winning this, Haru. Just give up. When your mom gets like this, she doesn't budge about anything. Dad laughed. Fine. How about this? If I show you that I am responsible and get the top grades in my class in all subjects, then can I go to Old Era Junior High? I argued. All right. Out with it. Mom said with annoyance. What? I asked innocently. Why are you being so stubborn about this? And don't say nothing. I know you better than that. I sighed. I guess it was time to spin a tale. Again. I met a friend online. He goes to Old Era Junior High. He's really lonely. I just want to help him out. He's getting bullied because he doesn't have a quirk. The teachers just ignore his bullies because they have a great quirk. But if I go there, I can help him out with my quirk. And all without resorting to violence. Is it wrong to want to help my friend Mama? I asked, playing up my puppy-eyed routine. You. My mother blushed. I can't say no to those eyes. Fine. You can go to Old Era Junior High. But you can't get into fights. Promise. Promise. I chirped, with a beaming smile. And you can't be late. She added. Ooh-ha. I nodded. And you can't slack in your studies. I expect full marks in all subjects, K-pitch. Dad chimed in. Of course. I added enthusiastically. And if anything happens, you have to tell us immediately. I don't want to hear it from your teachers or neighbors. He added. Dad. I protested. And that's how the third step to my plan was set into motion. And finally the pieces on the board were being set, a grand game of fate looming just beyond the horizon. Too bad, I was about to swipe the board off the table and into the incinerator like a cat too high on zoomies. And no one would see it coming. Haru-chan. Are you ready? My mother asked. Yup. I replied cheerfully. Today was the day I transferred to Old Era Junior High. Do you have your pencil case? Your hat? Lunch? Yes, Mama. I checked it. Twice even. You don't need to worry. I'll be fine. I consoled. Yes. I know you'll be fine. But as your mother, I can't help but worry. Now, make sure to keep your phone close by, and the whistle. Don't talk to strangers outside the school, understand? And if anything happens, just give me a call. I'll come pick you up, okay? I know. I know. Let's go already. Okay. But just one more thing. She added. What now? I turned around annoyed only to be greeted by a forehead kiss. Take care of yourself, okay? I'm going one city over, Mama, and I'll be back by tea time. No worries. Yes. Yes. You're my brave little boy. She said, pinching my cheeks. Bye. I said as I ran down to the bus stop. Today was the day I'd begin derailing canon. Starting with our very own Marimo-headed wimp. I was going to whip Deku into ship shape by the time the UA exams rolled around. And I had other plans for Muzutafu as well. Ones that'd hopefully change the course of many a quirkless lives. An hour and a half later, and after a chat with counselor, I walked into the class alongside the teacher, all eyes snapping on me at once. I could hear their whispers, curious as to my identity. All right everyone, settle down. Today we have a new transfer student in our class. Go on, introduce yourself. He said, patting my back. Hello everyone. I'm Shikimori Haru. I like dogs and books. Nice to meet ya. That was short. Why don't you go take a seat there, behind Midoriya? Yes, sensei. I replied as I walked over to my newly assigned seat. Hi. I'm Izuku. Welcome to the school, I guess. Deku stuttered. Likewise. I smiled and shook his hand. Suddenly, Finger nudged me from the side. Hey newbie. You might wanna keep your distance from him. He's the scrub of this class. Bottom of the pile sorta guy. You don't wanna be lumped together with him, now do ya? I turned around to see the boy retract his finger back. It was one of Bakugo's lackeys. Heh. I almost snorted. If only they knew how the social order was gonna turn here. Sure. Sure. I replied. Soon it was lunch time and half the class was off to the cafeteria. I wasn't one of them though. My mom had made me lunch after all. Rice and beans. And mochi on the side. Yum. I looked around for Deku only to see him slip out the back door with his lunch. Hey. You're not getting off that easy, whimsical. I muttered and made to follow him out. Through the hallways and staircases and out the back, to a secluded garden behind the gym. Is that where he eats his lunch? No wonder he's skinny as a lamp. How much can he eat between the 5 minutes it takes to get to and from here and the constant bullying he receives? If I am to get him into fighting form, he'll need to be able to eat in peace first. After all, nutrition is the basis of all action. Hey there! I shouted, alerting Deku to my presence. Almost instinctively, he flinched and shrunk. Man, that's some serious trauma he's hauling there. For him to have such a visceral reaction, he must have had a shit childhood. I'm surprised he didn't turn villain the moment he got all that one for all power. Oh. It's you. Thank goodness. I thought. He muttered. You thought what? I teased. Nothing. So, what are you doing here? He asked. Same as you, I suppose. Eating lunch. You don't mind, do you? No. Not at all. You're welcome to sit here. I didn't mean anything, Babbitt. I'm just worried about. Jesus fuck. This bag of nerves is fucking annoying. Alright, shut your cake hole. I get it. Fuck, do you talk like that all the time? I spat. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to annoy you. He began muttering again. Just shut up. Right now. I shouted and slammed a gist right into his head. He slammed his mouth shut with his arms immediately, his eyes wide with fear. From now on, whenever you talk to me, you'll do it in 20 words or less. Got it? He nodded vigorously. Good. We'll start with your muttering and nutrition first. Everything else can wait until after. Wait. What do you mean we? Izuku asked, only to be interrupted by a loud shout. Deku. What do you think you are doing hiding from me, huh? Bastard. You got a problem with me? Bakugo walked over menacingly, his goons following close behind. I immediately pulled out my phone and began recording. No, Kaken, I. You what, huh? Bakugo screamed at the poor boy, even as Deku scrambled back, hitting the shed. Yeah. That's enough. You'll stop it now. And leave him alone. I interrupted the duo as all eyes came upon me. Keep to yourself, newbie, or else. Bakugo snarled, punching his palm, creating one of his signature explosions. Or else what, you toilet brush? What are you going to do, huh? I taunted. You. I'll show you what. He screamed and jumped at me, an explosion budding in his hand. I activated my psi ability even before he made to make a move on me. Immobilization. 2 perpendicular rings of piss yellow appeared around him, freezing him in place midair. A look of shock sprung upon Bakugo's twisted face alongside a tinge of fear. He put a brave front and continued to shout at me. Bastard! Let me go. Fight me one-on-one if you think you're such hot shit. Yeah, no. And you all shut up now, I said, activating another aspect of my ability. Remote control. Bakugo's shirt lifted up, knotting itself in rolls. Lines of ethereal blue appeared on it as it rocketed itself right into his mouth, stuffing it shut. I saved the recording and pocketed my phone. Now, where were we? I asked, turning back to Deku. What did you do to him? Something you don't have the balls to do. I stood up to him and his violent psychopathic bullshit. He should be grateful I didn't just punch his nuts out. And actually, on second thought, I smirked, walking over to the angry diner bro. So, which nut do you think I should pop? I asked him, reaching for his groin, as my smirk turned into a malicious ear-to-ear grin. MHMMHMHSMMSMMSMM, he intoned, twitching and flailing, trying desperately to get out of my bindings. As my hand drew slowly closer, tears began to roll out of his eyes and he let out small choked sobs. His eyes seemed to be begging me to stop. Too bad. I wasn't gonna stop. Deku yelled as he lunged in between me and his abuser. Man, what a simp. PP, please don't hurt him, he screamed. I grabbed his shirt and chucked his sickly ass back to the shed. No please, he begged. Nope. I pulled my hand back in a swift sweeping motion before driving it right back into his groin. Bakugo shrieked in pain, his eyes rolled back into his head. His lackeys, who were frozen in shock, screamed out in terror and fled for their lives. I undid his bindings and he fell to the ground, unconscious. Why did you do that? You didn't need to hurt him. He wasn't going to do anything. Deku shouted at me. I just walked over to my lunchbox and sat down to eat. What? He got what was coming, I said. No. That's not the point, Deku mumbled. It's not. Then what is the point exactly? Because how I see it, he attacked me. And I acted in self-defense. And why are you trying to protect him? What's he to you? Kaken is my friend, he replied without skipping a beat. Tell me, Deku, how many times has he beaten you? Torn your clothes? Destroyed your homework? Is that what friends do? Is that how you behave to your friends? I asked him. I don't know. I would never do anything like that to my friends. But listen, Deku. Whatever Kaken here is, he's not your friend. He doesn't treat you like a friend. He doesn't consider you a friend. Hell, he doesn't even consider you a fellow living, breathing person. He treats you like property. Is that what you are, Deku? Are you Bakugo's property? Are you his slave? I asked the wimp. NNN what, Deku? Speak up. And remember, 20 words or less. No. I am not his property. And neither are you his friend. Remember this, Deku. Friends don't abuse friends. Bakugo is not your friend. He is not even a good person. He is someone who abuses the power they have been given. And tell me, Deku, what are those people called? Those who use their powers to hurt others. As if a realization had struck him, he staggered and fell on his butt. Villains, he muttered. Yes. They are called villains. And would All Might let Bakugo hurt you? Tell me, Deku, what would All Might do? He would stop Bakugo. He would stop him from hurting me. From hurting others. Deku answered, the first embers of a new flame of passion smoldering behind his eyes. Exactly. I replied, standing up. I walked before the fallen Deku and looked him in the eyes, the fluttering leaves, proving a chorus to my actions. The sun shone just right upon me, shining a bright halo behind. So Deku, I asked, extending an arm towards him, do you want to be a hero? Silently, I activated my phone's song app as light motivational music began playing. The scene was set, the actors were in position. What will you choose, Deku, I wonder? Deku fidgeted in place, before asking, but I'm quirkless. Can someone like me, someone who doesn't have a quirk, become a hero as well? Can I really be a hero, even without a quirk? Yes. Yes, you can. I answered, as the music reached its climax. No. That's not possible. He muttered dejectedly. Come, take my hand. Let me show you how to make the impossible possible. I said, beaming a smile like 1,000 suns. He reciprocated it, with tears in his eyes. And with a shaking arm, Deku grabbed my hand and I pulled him up. The lunch period was almost over. We packed our lunch boxes and walked back into class. Only, at the door stood the principal, fuming with anger. You two, in my office, now! He screamed. Deku looked at me, afraid at what might come to us, but I only looked him in the eye and smirked. Watch me make the impossible possible. Once we were in the principal's office, and settled, the man started chewing us out. What do you think you are doing, young man? This sort of behavior is unacceptable at this school. You transferred in just today, and you've already made trouble. It hasn't even been half a day. And you, Izuku. I did not expect you to engage in bullying. Not only are you quirkless but also a violent bully. How low can you fall? I am going to call both your parents up right now and tell them what you've been doing. Now go to the infirmary and apologize to Bakugo. Or else there'll be consequences. To that I had only one reply. No. What do you mean no? Listen, young man. I interrupted him before he could finish. No, you listen. I acted in self-defense. If anyone is at fault here, it is you and the school, who have been turning a blind eye to Bakugo's sewage of a personality and repeated and brutal bullying of Izuku Midoriya. If you had done your job and corrected Bakugo's actions with just punishment at the first violation, he would have never turned out like this in the first place. But because Bakugo gets great grades and has a phenomenal quirk, you ignored his actions, some out of negligence and apathy and some likely out of fear. I don't know what you're talking about. If you want to lie, at least make up a more believable one. We have received no reports of bullying. Especially by a model student like Bakugo. He acted as if I had offended him. Man, what a piece of shit. Really? You didn't hear the kid with a literal explosion quirk illegally using that quirk to cause physical harm to a poor quirkless kid? That's gonna stand well in court. Wait. What do you mean court? Oh, that. I actually filmed it all. I said, pulling out my phone and showing him the recording. His face lost all color at a frightening pace. Almost like a chameleon, he changed his colors. That's terrible. You know you're right. Now if you'd just give me your phone, I'll deal with this whole issue. The principal said, reaching for the phone. I handed him the phone as he immediately went to delete the video. Ah. By the way, if you think you can just delete the video, you're sorely mistaken. I've already uploaded it my cloud drive. Eep. The principal squeaked. What? Did you think I was dumb? I have also recorded this conversation, if that helps. Let's talk about this first. He pleaded. You know, Principal-san, according to the quirk management law, it is the school's responsibility to make sure that the students don't misuse their quirk. And if I remember correctly, the penalty for that is the removal of the teaching licenses of all parties involved and a permanent ban from the education industry. Along with a healthy 2-year prison sentence for grievous bodily harm, of course. I wonder what they'll do to child abusers like you in prison, Any. What do you think, Principal-san? I said, twirling my phone in my hands. The man was positively shaking in fear at this point. That was hook. Now for the line. What do you want? He asked at last, defeated. Turn a blind eye. You have quite the mastery at it already, don't you? Now you'll turn a blind eye to whatever happens to Katsuki Bakugo, just like you did to Midoriya. What are you planning to do? He asked. Your job. I'll put Bakugo in his place and all you have to do is keep mum about this. Also, just as an aside, you'll make sure that I get full marks in all subjects, K-pitch. Yes. I'll even do the same for Midoriya-san. Yeah, you do that. I said, getting off the chair and walking to the door, as Izuku followed, incredulous at the exchange that just took place. As I exited the room, I turned around for one last comment. Ah, and if any of the teachers try to heckle us or make life harder, you know what happens, right? The principal just nodded solemnly. Good boy. I chirped as I closed the door behind me. That was so cool. You're amazing, Haru. I couldn't have imagined that anything like this could ever happen. Deku squealed in delight. Didn't I tell you? I can make the impossible possible. I replied with a warm smile. Deku nodded vigorously. Come. Let's go back to class. As we out of class at the end of the day, Bakugo and his goons confronted us in an alleyway. What do you think you're doing, pom-poms? Have you already forgotten what I did to you earlier this morning? I taunted. He flinched and covered his groin instinctively. Yeah. That's right. I smirked. What? You think you can protect him all the time? One of the lackeys shouted from he back. A stern glare from me shut him up real quick. But that was enough to give Bakugo other ideas. Are you going to fight for him all his life? What, are you gay? He spat. Firstly, that's very homophobic. And secondly, no, I won't. Because I won't have to. Izuku will fight you himself. I said. Foo ha ha ha. They all began to laugh as Izuku became increasingly flustered. Away, I can't do that, Haru. I'll be killed. He protested. Don't worry about that. Once I am done with you, Bakugo will be the least of your worries. I replied. Wait, what? Izuku asked, but I ignored him. Listen to him, newbie. He can't fight me. I am superior to quirkless trash like him. Bakugo mocked. You are, aren't you? Then how about a bet? You're not scared of a bet, are you? I'm not scared of anything, bastard. He shouted. Then how about a bet? I repeated. You're on. He replied. 1 year from now, Deku here will fight you, one-on-one. Like you asked. In return, you have to promise to leave him alone for the next whole year. I'm sure you won't lose, right? Or are you afraid he'll beat stuffing out of you? I goaded him on. There's no damn way I'm losing. I'm a hero. That's what. And heroes don't lose. Then do we have a deal? I raised him a hand. You're damn right we do, he said, slapping my hand away. Once the broom gang left, Deku broke out in shivers and began his signature muttering. I'm going toady, I'm going toady, I'm going toady. No you're not, I said, slapping his back with the ferocity of the four winds. Yoj. He jumped in pain. You done muttering? Good. Didn't I just show you the impossible? Have some faith in me, would ya? I'm gonna train you over the next year. And when I'm done with you, you'll be crushing Bakugo lickety-split like. You trust me, don't you? Well, I just met you today so. He muttered. Really, Deku? I rolled my eyes at him as he began to chuckle. That day, I walked back home with Izuku in tow, as he hummed a happy tune. He looked like a burden had been lifted off his shoulders, and for the first time in years he stood straight and tall, walking with a pep in his step. And this was just the beginning of many changes I was going to bring to the poor sap's life. After all, having a pliant one-for-all user as a meat shield never hurts. Mwah ha 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 ha. Come on, you pussy. 10 more reps. You can do it. I screamed in Deku's ears, even as his beanie arms threatened to decapitate him with the improvised barbell. Perhaps it was that they had just started puberty or that he had been at it for close to 9 months now, but Deku pushed through, failing only at the 8th rep. And I respected that. The nerve bastard had shown remarkable willpower over the past year, more so than I had expected. He was still a muttering mess, but at least now he wasn't a half-starved emaciated doll. There was meat on his bones and the faintest outlines of definition were beginning to show on his muscles. Over the past year, he had learned about nutrition, mechanics, electronics and basic self-defense. And if he hoped to be a quirkless hero, he was going to need all of it and more. But even as I watched him at work, I grew ever more certain that soon Bakugo was gonna get crushed. Incidentally, he did keep his word and left Deku alone for the whole year. Something about heroes keeping their word or some such. Either way, the Deku of today was leagues better than the bullied trauma bitch of yesteryear. And I was going to show him just that today. How's this look? Deku asked, pointing at a recently repaired microwave. Huh. Oh. Let's see. I pushed the input pad as the screen lit up with dull hum. Seems about right. Let's take it over to the shop. I replied, picking it up between my arms. I'll take the drill bits then. Deku added. Ooh-ha. I muttered, using rise to ease my burden. As we made our way to the shop, I re-evaluated the schematic of the enchantment I was going to put on my weapon. It couldn't be something too powerful. Not just because the other had told me so, but also because I had double-checked the card with my own power. It wasn't powerful enough to grant op enchantments even if I could make up the excess with my psi. Even so, I used one of my powers, Laplace Jr., a paracognitive ability, to glean a loophole that would give me 2 enchantments for the price of 1. And today was the day I was going to finalize it. As we reached the second-hand electronics store, the old man at the counter recognized us. Ah. Haru-chan, Deku-chan, what do you have for me today? He asked. A microwave. It's mostly new, And working. Give me a good price for it any. I replied. Sure. How about 4,000? He quoted. Deal. I said, before adding, say, uncle, you wouldn't happen to have a key mold, would you? I do have one. Why? Lost your keys? He teased. No. But I'm going to a cosplay convention soon and I want to cosplay a charter that has a cool key accessory. Ooh-ha. Then you can use it if you promise to not break anything. He said. Thanks. Come Deku. And bring the drill bits. Hold on. Drill bits. Won't you need to use a forge for that then? Wait here for a minute. I know a place that has a quality forge a couple minutes from here. I'll make a call. The shopkeeper said. He ran inside and a couple minutes later we were at a back alley mill. This place looks Suze-af. I almost expect a Omni van hanging around the other side. But as we entered the place, the interior was the complete opposite of the shady exterior. Shining chrome fittings and marble flooring greeted us. There was no one in there, but that was understandable. Today was a Sunday after all. The shopkeeper led us to a forge at the end of the warehouse, and lit it up. As the drill bits made of tungsten carbide melted, I used remote control on the metal melt and pulled out gold and platinum shavings from a plastic bag in my pocket. I dumped them into the melt as well, creating a zigzagging puzzle-like circuitry, shaping it into a two-pronged key with the preset mold. From another pocket, I pulled out the enchantment card that I had retrieved yesterday from its years-long hiding place by the bench where I'd spawned first. From my side I wrote a program as the instruction on the card said, adding in the function of the enchantment, disassemble / state lock. The card began to shine with a blinding light. This was the 2-in-1 loophole I had found. Turning the key clockwise would disassemble any non-sentient material into palm-sized bits proportional to the amount of psi used. Turning it counterclockwise, on the other hand, would force assembly onto anything it was used on. Materials that would have otherwise broken under little force would remain cohesive and not even budge under much greater powers. For example, an A4 sheet of paper would need a chainsaw to tear through it after it was state-locked. What was best about this though was that unlike my abilities, an enchanted weapon would need little focus to use, just with a bit of psi energy. As the shimmer of enchantment faded, a beautiful crafted key came into view, glittering with platinum and gold grooves, against the rugged black of tungsten carbide. That is beautiful. Deku muttered. I know, right? I answered gleefully. What did you do with that card? The shopkeep asked. Oh, that. Nothing really. It was just a shining glitter applicator. See the grooves with that small mirror-like sheen? I lied. That's so. He spied me, unconvinced. Yup. I added, ending the conversation right there. Fine then. Keep your secrets. The shopkeep relented. Let's clean it up before we leave. We nodded and got back to work. Back at the shop I added a cuff and chain to the key to secure it to my arms, preventing it from being lost. Can't go around losing the only weapon I have, now can I? As we walked back home, I reminded Deku. Tomorrow you're going to fight Bakugo. Remember that. And rest well tonight. He hesitated a bit, before asking. Do you really think I can win against Kaken? I mean, he has this awesome quirk and he's so good at everything he does. He just feels like a mountain I can't ever climb, you know. I looked at the boy with his eyes downcast, unsure of himself. He couldn't see the changes he'd gone through these past months. The fruits of his works invisible to him through sheer mundanity. I wrapped an arm around him and pulled out my phone, showing him that video from 1 year ago, as he was slumped against the shed, Hugo bearing over him. This was what you were 1 year ago, I said, weak, wimpy, pathetic. He looked at the photos, then at me. Shouldn't you be giving me a pep talk? Motivational quotes and all. Why the insults? Deku asked. See Deku. That's the difference. What you just said. Right now, right there. Would you have had the balls to say half of it just last year? I pointed out. Realization dawned on him like light after storm. He nodded lightly, unconsciously. You're right. I'm different now. I'm not the same Deku I was last year. I can do it, he proclaimed. That's the spirit. Here, have a Pocky, I said, handing him a pack. You mew, he said, and took a huge bite out of all the Pocky sticks, with a mischievous grin. What the fuck? Deku, you ingrate. Do you also eat Kit Kats sideways? Come here, you! I screamed at him as he ran off laughing. Catch me if you can, Haru, he challenged. Oh, catch you I will. And you're gonna regret pissing me off, I exclaimed, chasing after him. You ready? I asked. As ready as can be, Deku replied with a wince. I looked down to see him pinch his finger on the tarsus. Damn it, Deku. I coated my hand in Sai and pulled his finger out before he shocked himself half to death. Don't be nervous. And it's okay even if you lose. I won't hold it against you, I reassured him, patting his back. No. I don't want to lose the trust you've shown in me. I don't want to betray it, he replied with determination. Then go get Tiger, I answered with a smile. You bastards done with your loser talk? Can we get to the part where I crush Deku already? Hugo mocked. I sent a glare his way. Can't let this dumbass ruin my plans of controlling Deku. If he wasn't such a child of destiny, I would have already gutted and dumped him halfway across the country. Sure. Get in position. At the count of 3, I said. The two of them walked across the footpath and down onto the beach arena of trash that we'd made for today. 3. Hugo started creating small sparks within his palms as Deku switched between his footing. 2. Hugo crouched in a runner's pose as Deku steadied himself onto his left foot in a sideways horse stance. 1. Hugo bum rushed into the fight with a wide rightward swing, explosion lighting his path. As he was about to land a hit, Deku fell backwards, launching a fist right onto Hugo's stomach, barely avoiding the explosion by mere inches. Its heat singed his muddy green hair. Hugo's expression morphed shock and awe and then into panic as he launched himself off course with his left. Immediately Deku rolled away into further, throwing up sand into Hugo's eyes. And just in time too, as an explosion landed at his position, sending a burst of sand into my eyes. Fuck. Keep the fight to yourselves, damn it, I cried, even as I projected an eye into the sky to see what was happening. Deku dodged Hugo's explosions repeatedly, rolling away each time as they struggled on the beach, littering the sidewalk with shells and rocks. I moved away from the fight, just as Hugo's fist landed on Deku's calf. TCSHHHH. He mummed in pain. I got you now, Deku. Hugo screamed in delight, raising his right at Deku. No, you Deku replied, and lurched forward, pushing Bakugo into a bear hug. Deku! He screamed, shoving his explosion into Deku's side in an attempt to get him off. Yagsh! Deku shrieked in pain as blood dripped from his side. He tried to trip the switch for the Taser only to miss it in the struggle. "What do you think you're doing?" he asked cockily. Then he spotted the hooks dug into his shirt. Bakugo's expression soured like weak old milk. He tore out his shirt with blinding speed, getting the Taser hooks off him. Trapping his leg against Deku's, turning them over, now with him on top. He began to pummel Deku into the sand. "Just give up, you quirkless shit. You'll never win against me," Bakugo shouted, shoving another explosion into his stomach. "No," Deku answered, pushing Bakugo onto his back against the sand. He pulled back the hooks, and shoved them into Bakugo's cheeks in a desperate move, slicing his lips. "I won't give up. Kaken. Because someone," he cried, tears pooling in his eyes, "finally believes in me." He tripped the switch finally, giving a tearful but triumphant smile, the Taser shocking the both of them. "Grara. No. No. I can't lose to you," Bakugo screamed, landing 2 more explosions into Deku before collapsing beneath him, in a heap of burnt flesh and molten sand. I sighed. Dumbass. Now I was going to patch them up. Increasing my fucking workload. Police sirens rang out in the distance. Fuck. Who called the police? Hey. You two. I called out to Bakugo's lackeys, startling them out of their daze. "Pick up Bakugo and follow me," I said as I ran to lift Deku's limp body off of Bakugo, dragging him across the beach and into town. As I left, I pushed down a bag of firecrackers and model rockets onto the sand and ran. Just as we made it out sight, a police car stopped by the impromptu arena. Hopefully my ruse would work and they'd just leave with the confiscated fireworks. But that remained to be seen. In the second-hand shop, I was being stared down by the shopkeep and the police as they had caught onto our trail. "So?" the officer probed. "Yup. We were just playing with fireworks." But then Bakugo had the idea that we should put together all the pop bombs and blow them up to make a huge sand volcano. But when he used his quirk to blow them up, it was too big. Like womb. I gestured. "That's all?" they asked, clearly still suspicious of my story. I nodded innocently. "Then why are you so calm about it? Aren't you afraid of being punished?" "Why would you punish me? I wasn't the one who did it. It was Bakugo. He has the explosion quirk. You can check," I said. "Yeah, we'll see about that," he replied coldly. The officer made a call to check my story. I wasn't worried. I had prepared for it. When you make a lie and add a truth at the end as a qualifier, then people tend to believe the lie because when they check the one part of the story that can be proven and it turns out to be true, they just assume that whatever else you told them must be true as well. The officer came back after the call and nodded at his partner. "Don't play such dangerous games again, or next time all of you will get punished. Understood?" All of us nodded vigorously in agreement as they left. Once the officers were out of view, the shopkeeper pulled Deku out of a nearby closet, and placed him on a bench. "Now, you want to tell me what really happened?" he asked. "Well," I replied. "This is brilliant. The characters are so fresh and unique. And the personality on them. Just And the concept is virtually heretofore unseen. How did you come up with this, Batman? The editor squealed with joy. It's just an old character from a bygone era. Copyright free, of course. The rights to it died ages ago. It's public domain now, so there's no worries on that front. The story is mine, obviously, that much you can be certain of. I explained. This is going to sell like hotcakes, I tell you. So about the advance? I suggested. Oh. Yes indeed. Wait a moment, I'll need to consult with the chief. Wait here please. The editor replied, as he frantically made a call. Moments later he was back with an offer. How does 2 million sound? He said. Yup. Plan success. That'll do just fine. And I want a royalty of 40%. I answered. That's another step of my plan complete. This would grant me more credibility when I break down and roast Hero Society in the war arc and take down the Public Safety Commission. After all, who could question my motives when I don't even discriminate against the quirkless and show kindness to everyone? Hey ha 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 h. After all, no one suspects the man who has nothing to gain from it and has a history of being a paragon of virtue. And this will be the first step to establishing that image of a virtuous paragon of heroic kindness. Starting with the quirkless. Then the world. I arrived at Dagobah Beach to procure my travel bag from its hiding spot, to find Deku waiting for me. What are you here for, Deku? I asked, nonchalantly. You know what? I'm coming with you. He replied. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, feigning ignorance. That girl. You're going to rescue her, aren't you? He pushed. What girl? I am just going on a small camping trip to Mount Fuji. I replied, opening the hidden trash compartment only to find it empty. Looking for this? Deku said, dragging out my bag from behind a nearby fridge. Don't treat me like an idiot, Haru-chan. I have been watching you for the last week. You've been researching maps of the area, looking at news updates. I know what you're trying and I want in. He said. Finally, I relented. Fine. But not a word about this to anyone. Understand that? I emphasized. He nodded. Good. We leave this Saturday. Pack yourself a bag. And wear sneakers. We don't wanna scare her, right? I said. Gooham. He intoned joyfully. Now give me that bag, will you? I need to get something from it. I returned home with a laptop that day and began my YouTube channel. Another step to sow discord against Hero Society by posing as a social activist and professional do-gooder. Let's see. I muttered, what should I name my channel? I'll just use my power to decide. I said, activating Laplace Jr. My eyes flipped pitch black and information flooded my brain, timelines projecting forward, calculating, optimizing possibilities, until one word stood clear. Paragon. A fine name if there ever was any. I pulled out my phone and put on my mask and headphones on. Welcome to my channel. I am Paragon. And today I want to talk about mutant quirks and discrimination. That weekend as he planned to leave, his mother stopped him. Do you have enough money for a return trip? Your phone charger? Yes, Mama. Remember, if anything goes wrong, call me immediately. And don't swim in the lake, okay? Who knows what sort of nasty parasites are worming around there? I get it already. Yeah. she said, pinching my cheeks. Oh. And here, she said, pulling a muffler tight around my neck. A bit too tight. Mama. I can't breathe. I tapped her hands. It should at least be this tight to keep the cold out at night. She insisted. Then I'll tighten it later, I said, loosening the scarf's death grip on my neck. Call me when you get to the station and once again when you get on the train, and then once you reach the campsite, understood? Or else. She threatened. Don't worry, Mama. I'm responsible. I'll be fine. I pushed out my chest in pride. Love you, she said, kissing my forehead. You mew, I replied, leaving in haste. I met up with Deku at the train station, as we boarded the train for Tohoku. So what's the latest on her location? I asked. She was last spotted heading north to Iwaki. Her. I mumbled as I stuffed bento meat buns down my gullet. She's claimed another victim, you know. He had a family too. A wife, 2 kids. He added. What are you implying, Deku? I asked. Is she really worth saving? He replied. Really? Really, Deku? You're asking if someone is worth saving? I scolded. Even All Might has denounced her actions. He insisted. Then that is a moral failing on All Might's part. Tell me, Deku, do you really want to live in a world where your heroes condemn an innocent girl to death for losing control of her quirk? For a small mistake. Something that wasn't under her control. Would you condemn her, personally? I asked. That's not what I meant. He argued. Then what did you mean, Deku? Many who live deserve death, and many who deserve life die. Can you give it to them, Deku? Tell me, can you? And on what authority? No, I can't. He relented. Then do not be so quick to judge others for their merits and sins. Who knows what they're going through? I guess you're right, Haru-chan. I'm sorry. He agreed. Good. Now do you want a sushi or omelette bento? I smiled. After arriving in Iwaki, we settled into a motel room. I took out a used police scanner that the second-hand electronics shopkeep had bought for us at a police auction. Tuning it to the police frequency, I leaned against the bed frame and began the stakeout, while Deku took a nap. 3 hours later, I heard the announcement. Man attacked in Zone 14, behind the warehouse district. Attacker was a potential villain, about 5'10" with waxy peeling skin. Possible wax-related quirk. Yep. That's her. I shook Deku awake. Found her. Warehouse district. Come. He nodded and we got on a bus to Zone 14. Dropping off 2 blocks from the site, we made our way through the back alleys, until we spotted a trail of melted skin goo by the doorway to an abandoned office building. There. Deku said. All right. Be careful. She's likely deadly. I warned. He struck his tarsa knuckles against each other, creating a spark for effect. You know it. He replied. Deku snuck past the barricade behind me. That way. I pointed at the adjacent corridor. Deku nodded and crept away to encircle the compound. I tiptoed to the first door, opening it as silently as possible. With the smallest crack open, I projected an eye into the room, tensing up for potential conflict. Nothing. The room was empty. I crept over to the next one and the next, repeating the process over and over until I reached the 3rd floor. Suddenly I heard the shattering of glass, followed by Deku's pained screams. Then the crackling of electricity. The sounds died down as quickly as they had begun. I dashed across the building, projecting eyes on every coming wall, corner and crevice. Then I saw it. Blood. I slid behind a pillar and projected an eye into the corridor, following the blood trail. There he was. Deku. On the floor, surrounded by shattered glass, a middle-aged man sucking on his blood through a straw. Immediately I activated my immobilization eye, stopping the person in place. They let out a startled yelp as the constricting rings appeared around them. "Who's there? Come out now or I kill him." A warbled breaking voice rang out through the building. I walked out from behind the pillar, arms spread, an awkward smile purposefully put upon my face. We're here to help. Just put the glass down, okay?" I said. She pushed the glass further into Deku's throat, drawing drop of blood. Deku stirred, reaching for his head by instinct, only to meet Imiko's butt. The waxy skin completely melted off her body, revealing a naked Imiko. Saito-kan. Hentai. She moaned. Almost immediately he was shaken out of his stupor. "Ya!" he screamed, pushing Imiko off his chest, before retreating towards me. He knelt down on one knee, his back against a wall, wincing in pain. He looked at his arm, lacerations running across it. "Fuck!" he cried. "Yeah. Here," I said, and threw him the cotton gauze. "Patch yourself up. I'll take care of her," I added. "Guhan." He nodded with gritted teeth. He stripped off his jacket and threw it to me. Imiko, stuck in place, looked at me mutely, a snarl ready to burst behind her cat-like teeth. I took out a pair of pants from my bag and picked up Deku's jacket. "Here. Cover yourself up," I said. I turned around, but secretly kept watch through another eye I projected onto the wall behind Toga. Now dressed, she looked us up and down. "What do you want? You look a little young to be policeman." "No offense," she said. "Really? I would have for sure thought I looked the part." "What gave it away?" I bantered. "Oh, I don't know, the lack of a uniform, wanton use of quirks, or maybe it was that you came here with Saito-kan." She smiled back, her initial fear slowly fading. "Yeah, about that, he's not Saito. He's Deku," I clarified. "Useless." "He doesn't look useless though." "No. Not. I mean his name is Izuku Midoriya. He isn't Saito-kan. Saito is still in the hospital. You know, where you put him after you drained him half to death. He will never be able to walk again either, if you were wondering," I reproached. "It's not my fault," she shouted. "I never wanted any of that. I just..." His blood, the bruises, he was, just so beautiful," she said, tears flowing from her eyes. "He wasn't, I didn't want him to die," she sobbed. I walked over to her, gently petting her head, comforting her. "I know. But that's why you've got to come with us. We can help. I'm sure you don't want to live out the rest of your life as a villain, skulking around in broken down dumps like this. Being hunted like a monster, day in, day out," I suggested. "Of course not. Who would ever want to live like this? But if I go with you, what's to say you won't just give me over to the police?" She sniffled. "I won't. Promise," I said, reassuringly. "Really?" She looked at me doubtfully. I beat my fist into my chest and answered with gusto. A hero never goes back on their promise. But you are not a hero. I will be. In the future. I pointed to the middle distance, striking a heroic pose. He. She chuckled. What? I snapped. You're so silly. She answered. Where's the fun in life without a little silliness? I countered with a flashing innocent smile. Are you done flirting? Because I'm bleeding out here. Deku muttered, dully behind me. I blushed, yeah. Sorry. Let's go home. I said, giving Deku a shoulder to lean on, before cancelling the restriction on Emiko. You what if I ran away? She asked. You could. Or you could stay. It's your choice really. I replied. Then why? She asked. Because, I believe in giving people a chance. Every deserves a little faith, don't they? I smiled at her, as she counted toes. You're just so damn silly. She replied, her voice cracking. She shivered for a moment before looking up. All right. I'll trust you. She said. Uhan. Then come help me get him out of here. He needs to rest. The next day, through backdoor channels, and a little bloodletting, we made their way over to Naruhata, Tokyo. What are we doing in the heart of Hero Society? I thought you were going to help me. She asked. Where do you think they're looking for you? I asked. Everywhere. She answered flustered. No. They're looking a girl who ran away north of Iwaki. They won't expect you to be here, in Tokyo, right under their noses. This is the safest place for you. Oh. That's smart. Why didn't I think of that? She asked. How am I supposed to know? I teased. You mew. You know that was rhetorical. She pouted, punching my shoulder. Really? I said, playing coy. I'm almost sick of you two. You've been flirting all day long. All day long. Deku complained. Oh. Is someone getting jealous, Tilda? I asked, poking his cheeks. No. I'm getting concerned. She is a criminal, Haru-chan. And she slit my wrist. I'm sorry if I'm a bit miffed about someone trying to kill me. He snapped. Geez. Who bit out your left nut? I warned you about the risks. You chose this. Don't whine about it now. I replied. HMPH. He huffed and turned away. What a bitch. But I get it. I'd be pissed too if I was in his place. But interrupting my plans now was unacceptable. For a moment I weighed my choices. Having a shape-shifting assassin to use against the Bureau of Hero Public Safety would be a godsend, but was it worth losing a potential one-for-all user for? No. It wasn't. I had backup plans for getting rid of the Bureau. I had no backup plans for getting one for all. Deku was the more valuable asset. Fine. What do you want me to do? I relented. An apology from her would be a good place to start. He said. I rolled my eyes and looked at Emiko. She sighed. I'm sorry. Will that do? Knock off Saito-kan. It's Deku. I mean Izuku. And no. But it's a start. He snarled back. I face-palmed. This was going to be a long weekend. Disembarking at Naruhata, I led the crew straight to Market Street. Now it was time to wait. And we didn't have to wait long. Within the hour, our person of interest crawled into view. Local vigilante and professional dumbass, Koiki Hamawari. Wait here, I said. I ran out to meet him just as he sped by. Activating my immobilization I stopped him mid-slide, and jogged over to greet him. Hey there. Sorry for the... that. I said, pointing at the restrictions. No worries. He smiled. Do you need any help? Actually, yes. I was looking for... this guy, with spikes for knuckles. You know where I can find him? I asked. Yeah. Follow me. And can you undo the light ring thingy? He replied. Oh sure. I said, and undid the restriction. He sped up again, sliding into a nearby alley. I gestured the two to follow as I ran after him. That's it guys, hope you like the video. Stay tuned to see the next parts. Like, share and subscribe the channel. And tell me your recommendation in comment section down below. Thanks for watching.